Marla on a holiday, even before it starts. So good to see you, Marla. Happy Memorial Day weekend, everyone. I guess it's the last day, right? Good to see all of you. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. So for our all access group, I made this an open lesson just in case any of our YouTube community wants to hang out with us. But here are a couple things, Marla, and anybody who joins, is we're talking about bebop and ways to connect our lines, right? And I mentioned to you guys when I first started playing music, and I remember doing like the C scale, and everything seemed to, anytime you improvise with the C scale, you're lining up your chord tones. On the way back down, not so much. And it sounds horrible, and I couldn't figure out why. And then finally I learned about the bebop scale, the major bebop on the way back down. So that gives you even the half steps, right? But also you can often use a lot of half step approaches like this in slow motion. If I'm on D minor and I go 5, that C sharp leads into the downbeat and then the C. So you see how I did. So what I started doing is, as messy as it is, I've been writing out a bunch of patterns and just ways to connect things, which I will convert to actual finale. And I put a link in the description earlier. I think that drive is still there for people who want the access to this sheet right here. This was the loop that we did. It's just like this. I'll do it very slowly, and then we'll talk about it. I like doing loops. Okay, now let's talk about even that loop. So I was at D minor, so we're doing a 2 5 1 6. As a matter of fact, with all three of these pages right here, as messy as it is, I'm showing you guys just how you can do a 2 5 1 6, and each little idea of this first loop even is a concept. And let me go through a couple of these again. We have 8 people watching. Make sure you say hello and make sure you like this video. We have a lot of momentum at iMusicAcademy right now, and I want to keep it going. Your comments help, and of course likes and interacting even in the chat's also a lot of fun. But watch this. Even that right there, what happened? We went down chromatically, so I'm keeping, even from D minor, root, flat 7 are on downbeats. And then I went, on the and, I went a half step below the third of G, so. And then I did what's called a pivot, right? A pivot, if I have G major, or G7, or actually G9. And what I'm doing is just inverting it. So like, if you take a G7 chord, and I put the G on top, and then I'll have that, that's a pivot. And if I do it again, if I invert it again, now I have that, and I put that on top, and then I have that, right? So a pivot is when you reorder the notes, like a C major pivot, C, E, G, B is a major 7. I could take the bottom and put it on the top, and now I have this. As I mentioned earlier, that when I was learning how to play the piano, and I did start late learning how to play, I started in college, but when I started, getting fast fingers and everything, I always felt like I wasn't really getting the sound I wanted. And then I started playing saxophone, and when I did that, I first discovered like Sonny Stitt doing. I still remember that lick. That's from, I can't remember what song it is, but this idea of the pivot. And I thought I had arrived by doing that. And even having these flat 9 sounds are like things that made me all of a sudden, and I think it was by playing saxophone, it made me realize these ideas of really nailing the chord changes. And so I've been on a quest of learning how to do stuff like that. So even on this simple loop, there's their pivot, and then you're going to walk the 5th down to the 3rd. Okay, and then you keep going down and you have the flat 9 right there. And hey, good to see you, Rick, the Gandalf of iMusicAcademy. We have Queen Vic, and of course we have Marla, who is our resident superstar at iMusicAcademy. So that's 3 ideas, and we're just still on the first 2 measures. Pivot, 5th down to the 3rd of A, and then watch this. There's your flat 9. Now, I want to give you guys a couple of really important tips here, and we're going to go through all 3 pages, so have no fear. This idea of 5th down to the 3rd, and that gives you your flat 9, right? This is really important because you know this trick. I'm going to say it again. If I'm on an A7 dominant chord, the 6th chord, so like 2, 5, 1, 6. When I get to that 6th chord, and if I go dominant there, and I play a diminished chord, starting a half step above from my root, that's B flat. And if I play B flat diminished arpeggio, it's the same 4 notes over and over if I invert it, right? So the nice thing is you go 5th down, and then I play this diminished chord, right? And that gets me the flat 9. And if you understand that, put God in the chat. Because I want you guys to notice something really important, is that if I play an A7, straight up A7, I'm inverting it, like A, C sharp, E, G, and I take the G and I put it on the bottom, now it's still an A7 chord. If I take my index finger and I go up a half step, now I have a B flat diminished chord. And all of those notes work perfectly for an A7 chord, right? So that's this flat 7 of an A scale, or the flat 7 of an A7 chord, that's the flat 9, that's the 3, and that's the 5. Okay, so we have this really cool concept even in the 2nd measure, that you go 5th down to the 3rd, and then you go down another minor 3rd, and you have that flat 9 sound. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I want to say something else, or just a reminder that when I do like to goof around on a lot of different instruments, but when I first started hearing those sounds, I think it was from the saxophone ultimately, of hearing ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, or be-da-da-da-da-ba. That's the flat 9, but up the octave. So I want everybody to get this down. Now even that was chromaticism to help me get back to a chord tone on the D minor. So 2, 5, 3. Now watch that. That's that A7, this idea of the A7 as a very awesome notes to get that flat 9 sound. So you have this 5th down C major, so 5th of C major down to the 3rd of C of A. Now watch, I'm on the 5th of D minor, chromatic up to the 3rd, major 7. So right there, I was just doing one of two things. I was either playing a chord tone like a 3rd, a 5th, a 7, or a 9, but then I was going, right? I wanted that flat 9 sound, and that's just something that I want you guys to get. There's so many nice, fun ideas you can do, major and minor, but one of the best things is getting this sound. And you can keep going down, or you can go Now, before we continue down the PDF for this loop and other loops that I have for you guys today, I want you guys to know that the generic lick that everybody learns, or you want to learn, is this. All that is, and it's so important to learn that in every key eventually, right? But what it's doing, let me go back to C, starts on the 3rd, down to the third of the A7. So 1 chord, 6 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord. But notice that it's happening twice where you go and you arpeggiate that diminished chord. Same thing. And now watch this. That's the same concept. It gives you a flat 9 on G. And if you understand that, put God in the chat. So I'm going 1 chord C, A7, D minor, G13, or sorry, G7. But when I play a G7, and if I go up a half step, I can play a diminished on G. And all those notes are going to give me that flat 9 sound. Let me do it in slow motion. The flat 9 of whatever chord we're on, and that gives me a sharp 5 or a flat 13 right there. Vicky, the answer is whatever chord you're on. So arpeggiating the diminished chord, got it. All right, Rick, Gandalf has it. He understands. Arpeggiating the diminished chord. And that's just a really fun thing to do. I'm going to give you another tip. Let's say we've been doing a lot of F blues, and I've been getting a lot of awesome feedback from the F blues from you guys. Let's say that I get to the 4 chord of F, which is B flat. Now, I can go up just the same idea of the trick of going up a half step, and I can go a half step up from whatever my dominant chord is. In this case, I go up from B flat, I go up a half step. Now I play a diminished chord. Now watch this. That's just my diminished chord, right? For B flat. So I go, and I can go. So that's a B flat 9 instead of diminished. That's flat 9 of B flat. But I could also go, instead of flat 9, I could just go B flat 9. Or I could do a mixture of both. I kind of like that sound. Or I could do this. So if we're going... Okay, Marla says you're lost. Does it start on the 3rd? Okay, that's a great question. Let's talk about that, Marla. So for that generic lick that you hear that everybody needs to know, and it's really important to get this down in key of C. I started on the 3rd, down to the 3rd of A. And now if I keep that generic pattern going, I'm on the 5th now, but down to the 3rd. I'm arpeggiating the D minor 7. Right? So ba-da-da-da-ba-da. And what everybody needs to understand is when we're talking about we're in the key of C, right? So when I say starting on the 3rd, I'm talking about that chord. 3rd down to the 3rd of the A chord. Now I arpeggiate that A diminished chord, and there's your flat 9 of an A scale. And now this is D minor, just an inversion of a D minor 7. And then that leads you to the 3rd of G7. And then there's your flat 9 by doing that trick of the diminished. Go up a half step. What's up, Dad? Good to see you. Hey, T-Man. Okay, so, and let's keep, I want to make sure that Marla understands what we just did that. Now, Marla said, does it start on the 3rd? Well, it can if you're doing that generic lick. And that's great for ear training. Put it in any key. Right? That's a great thing to practice. But going back to what you're saying, Marla, is this idea of, even in our loop, the 5th of C down to the 3rd. And how you can put different half steps to get your chord tones on downbeats. Let me do that one again. C, 1 and 2. On beat 2, I'm on the 3rd. Now watch this. I go to the A scale. There's my flat 9. Now I go chromatically so that I can get to the 5th of D minor. And then instead of going right to the D, I'm going to put the half step. We're at the major 7. Now this is where it gets really nice. I want everybody to just listen. Let's focus in on the second line for this PDF. And Marla, I think you got access already to this folder, but you have this idea of A, B, C sharp, D. So from any minor chord, you can start on the 5th. Watch this, everyone. And then I went to G7, so 2, 5, and I'm on the 5th of G. And if I do another half step on the F sharp, so minor 3rd to major 3rd, but on the offbeat, you have this. Isn't that nice that it gets us to the 5th right there? So you start to go 5th, 5th. Let's do that again very slowly. So everyone, hey Doug, good to see you. Doug is the first ever member of our YouTube channel. Good job, Doug. I mean our membership area in the YouTube. Doug, good to see you. Yeah, we're at 10 members now for that. That's awesome. Hey, Marla and everybody, listen up. You notice that I was doing these little melodic things. Now right there, what is that? That's A7 with the flat 9. So that's why even these really beautiful melodies, flat 9, 5th to the 3rd, flat 9, 5. So 5th of C, flat 9. Isn't that nice how we can do that? So a lot of the times when we hear really beautiful melodies, it's things like that. It's the flat 9s, and even in your chromaticism. I went. A7 with the flat 9. 5th, flat 9 of G. 5th, 3rd, flat 9. 5th. All right, let's do the loop again. Let's play it really slowly, and I'm going to demonstrate again how these simple concepts of half-step approaches keep you locked up with your chord tones on downbeats. For the D minor, and then I do a pivot right here, 5th down to the 3rd, and then right here I went down. Instead of going, I went down to the B flat, the flat 9, and then here is where this really awesome line comes out. I want you guys to know 5th with that half step on it's kind of like a leading tone into the D minor, and then a leading tone to get me to the G. Isn't that great? Because now you know what it's doing. No longer you have to think, oh, I'm on a D minor. Okay, I have to play a D minor on the root, because it is so important to know we start our licks like this. Right? It's important to do that, but it's also important to be able to start from the third or the fifth. And when you start taking your triads and your starting notes and not doing it on the root, it will change everything. Even adding this half step on C sharp keeps my chord tones in line. Isn't that nice? And it's not, yeah. So what Marla said is exactly right. She said you keep ending on the fourth and it's not sounding so good. Right, and the same thing happens to our chord tones on downbeats. It's so easy to do. Like if I'm playing a C major chord and I come, or the C major scale, and I go, I mean, how horrible is that? There's my F on the downbeat. And I told you guys when I started playing, I didn't understand why licks and things didn't sound good going down, and it was because I was missing the half step. So even by adding even this one idea of the fifth down to the third, right? That works with the chord tones because I'm on C, and then my one and the F is on the and. That's why that works, Marla, and it doesn't sound bad. 1 and 2, and there's my chord tone, and here's my third and my flat 9. Okay, now let's keep going. We have to go down this PDF, and I'm going to go to the second PDF. That was supposed to be the whole thing. I've actually done a lot more of my messy handwriting, and it's going to transfer to Finale sometime today. All right, so watch this. The second line, I do want you to practice 2, 5 with those half steps. And then we end the idea 5, 1, just an A triad. And then it starts over. And notice that I'm doing a mix between playing the loop exactly as it is and then maybe just mix it up just a little bit. Like I played a little bluesy lick. I could go. Then I go back to the loop. Okay, let's keep going down this list. So you have page 1, and all I talk about on page 1 is just, and it's in the folder, you guys know this, but I said 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay, this is important. Watch this. Within the second line, and I do the half step, and then I get to this 1, 2, 3, 5. So remember we have this really cool thing that you can do with major chords. Everybody focus in. I want Rick to lock into this. So you have C major, 1, 2, 3, 5. Awesome, Marla. Yeah, Marla, that's what this whole bebop, things that wished I knew earlier. This is going to help everything, Marla. That half step will help a lot. And this second page is going to help you a lot as well. Now, everybody watch this. Lock into this. 1, 2, 3, 5 of the C major, right? We know that sounds great. It's the 1, it's the 2, it's the 3, and I could go boo, da, da, da. That sounds good even by itself because the D gets the and. 1 and 2 and. Now, you can also go up to the 5th and play the same thing. Now, the reason that works is because that's the 5th of C, the 6th, that's the major 7, that's the 9. So I could technically do this. All those notes are going to work, and we've demonstrated that even on Take the A Train. If my improv was this, right? Even that, I just did 1, 2, 3, 5 of the bebop. I'm sorry, the major pentatonic. It is the major scale. And then here I went to whole tone because that's one of the scales you can use for Take the A Train. But I want you to notice something. I could go up to the 5th. And all I did is that one idea, 1, 2, 3, 5. And just like you learned that in giant steps, those patterns that do giant steps, learn this 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern in all keys. What a great goal to get that down. And you can even practice it in half steps, because sometimes you might want to play that. Like if you're going, and you're just listening to the sound a half step up, so you can get away with that by, if you have a C major for a while, you could do that. But here's the next thing we can do. We can go 1, 2, 3, 5, and we know we can do 1, 2, 3, 5 a fifth away. So both of those are going to work over a C major chord. But you can also do this. You can go E, F, G, because what's happening here is that F is on the and, 1 and 2 and. So I have 3 ideas. I could go. Even that right there, when I went flat 9, I went flat 9, right? So those little things using the flat 9 are really going to help you. All right, before we're about to transition to the second page, but I want just to remind everybody, I put in brackets this idea of 1, 2, 3, 5 of the G major, because even as I play this, it gets into that 1, 2, 3, 5, right? Of C major with a G major pentatonic. Yeah, it says, are you playing a 10th? I do play a lot of 10ths, but you don't have to worry about that. Like, nobody really cares or notices anyway, and you don't want to hurt your hand anyway. But the great thing you can do, Marla, is if you do want to play more 10ths, I would spend time doing the 2-hand 10th. Okay, that's one trick. And also for everybody that if you have a smaller hand, I want you to also know that you can do this. You can play the C, G, and you can play the D, and you can play the E. You could do like hold your thumb out so that you're playing both, and you still hear this note. And you get the D in there as well. But what people hear is this. Isn't that a nice little trick that you can do there? Yeah, and then if that's too big for you, you could play this. You could play this in both hands, like you could play the 10th, which is a very cool thing to do. You'll hear me do that. Right, you hear that sound? Doesn't matter your key. All right, that's a really cool thing to do. And there's another thing, Marla, I was going to say about that is even doing root 5th is really cool. Yeah, so Rick says he likes that idea. That's just such a cool trick, right? But you're playing, yeah, Rick, you're playing the 9th, but you're also playing the 10th. All right, so again, in this first page, strategically, I gave you things to get those, to get your Dorian scales, for instance, where you're not starting on the root. That starts on the 5th, and then you chromatically go up to the G, which will give you the C, the 5th. But here's the last concept on this page is that remember that you have this idea of flat 9, and so if you go 5th down, this idea of is a really cool thing to practice. And I'm going 3rd of A, flat 9, and chromatically walking up to the 5th of wherever you're going next, so D minor. Okay, let's go on to the second page. How cool is that? All right, this is not quite as messy, but maybe it is. All right, this is the same concepts, and we're actually breaking this down to something very manageable. Is that halfway down the page, I show you the bebop major, also called the harmonic major. Okay, so somebody write bebop major in the chat. In fact, everybody do, so I know you're locking in. But just remember, everyone, on the way up, our chord tones are on downbeats. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, root, 3rd, 5th, 7. On the way back down, you start on the C, it sounds horrible. Because we only have the root, 6 is kind of a chord tone. It is if you're playing this kind of sound, but not really. The F is definitely a horrible sound there. And then there's the 9th. So what we need is that half step. Okay, so I want everybody to practice that, and I also want you to practice this idea. That's your bebop dominant scale, which has the major 7 and the flat 7. And a great way to finish that off, the David Baker idea, where you go and what that does, keeps those chord tones on the downbeats on our descending patterns. Both of those are written in the middle of this chart, but let's go up to the top. Here's what we have. The same idea of adding the half step for D minor. Even though it's D minor, I can add that F sharp in there to give me the half step movement to lead me to G. All right, yeah, Marla and Rick, everybody has it. Very good. Yeah, and I don't just mean just play it and forget it. I want everybody to spend a little time thinking about the major bebop scale, because you can take this, right? Go every key and get used to it. Bebop, yes, bebop. All right, the next thing we're going to do is you get familiar with that and then add this lick that I put in there. Again. Yeah, he's full of those, Marla. Again. And what's happening here? 1 and a 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I go down to the major 7, whatever key I'm in. Okay? And then the next thing we're going to do, so I would sit with that one. If I'm on the key of B flat and I go down to the major 7, 5, 6. All right, we're going to continue to go down this, but I wanted to say something to my beginners out there. I've been doing a lot of preparing for something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And that is I actually kind of told you guys the idea of what this is, but it's Retired and Ready for the Blues. And what I'm looking at doing is having something. Now, my all access members have no fear, because this will be a part of what you always get access to, of course. But Retired and Ready for the Blues is going to focus in on retired people who are either beginners or they're getting back into playing again. And some of them have played other instruments, and because of physical challenges of like playing guitar and now your hands, you're having trouble with that. We have a few of those, and now you're playing piano. So that's the goal of this retired and ready for the blues thing. And so I've been really working hard. And so what I want you guys to know is we have some really cool things coming. Like how do you start playing the blues? How do you work your fingers to make sure they're strong? And how do you enjoy the process of learning simple concepts of playing the blues? So it's like 5-note patterns, blues scale ideas, and so I've been going through identifying all the things that is going to make this a really fun thing to do. And it will only be one time a week that we meet. We'll have our lesson. So anyway, retired and ready for the blues is coming. I'm only telling you that because it'll encourage everybody to simplify things and to really focus in on a specific amount of material, and then you work on that material, and then you'll be able to really enjoy the process of learning. Step-by-step approach of the basics of playing the blues. All right, so I'm excited about that. I've told a few people about that. But here we go. Let's keep going down this list. So this right here, I want you to see what's happening here. I go D minor, and I get to G, and it does that same thing we did, okay? So let me do this again. And notice that I'm on the G, and I do the 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern. We've already done a lesson this morning on that. I want everybody to know your 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern. And like almost everything at iMusicAcademy, once you learn one thing, you learn the same finger motion and muscle memory to get in any key. Like if you learn this, it doesn't matter the key. I'm doing the same muscle memory on every single note. Okay, that's very important. So notice that it showed up here. Okay, now this is important because in the same way as you learn how to read music, you learn patterns, right? This, and then I can easily spot, even with my messy handwriting, that I'm doing G, A, B, D, right? And then what I put on here is this. Now, everybody watch this. It's really important. And I know I'm a little bit over already of my normal 30-minute or 35-minute teaching, but it's Memorial Day and a lot of people are off. Let's just do a little bit longer. So watch this. And here I'm doing the scale with a little turnaround. 1 and a 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4. And I did the offbeat on the E flat. All right, so notice that I was just mixing and matching those. The second line has this. And what's happening there is my triad. That's an A minor triad. When you put a D minor with an A minor triad, you have this, a ninth. G triad, and then it does E minor 7 to this. And I just told you guys the importance of doing that right there, right? All right, the very next line, and notice that these are loops. I'm showing you guys how to do. All right, sounds good, Marla. Good to see you. And Marla was first on before anybody else. Good job. Okay, let's go to the next line. Okay, all that is the major 7 once again. We got that, we're good. The next one, I already showed you, has your bebop major, we're good. Let's go down to the last one, no, we have a couple more on this page. 3 more on this page. We're gonna go. right, so this is a longer line. We're going to go. All right, bye. Awesome, Rick. Sounds good. All right, see you guys. Okay, that's just a longer line. And then the next one is this. I told you we're good there. Let's do the very last two. Is this. You can start down here. Yeah. There's your flat 9, and the very last one is this. I think that's it. Let me just make sure it's written right. Oh. All right, here it is. Awesome. First in, first out. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. We have 10 people watching. Thanks so much for hanging out at iMusicAcademy. And I will see you guys in the next video. You have 30 seconds to say goodbye to whoever's left. Nice job, Rick. Dad, good to see you. Marla, good to see you. Vicky, good to see you. Let's see if there's anybody else. T-Man. Doug came in for a little while. I'll see Chord Academy tomorrow morning, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.